Well, let's talk about women for a moment. Why not? I sometimes do it. There was an argument about um, the multiplication of wives, and as I often have pointed out in the past, and I get some, you know, very disagreeable answers, I just say, look, there is no biblical requirement for a man to have just one wife. You can't find it in the Bible except for certain positions in Paul's church. It's not there. And so a woman, of course, a woman has to pipe up and object and explain to me patiently as to a child that this was a tolerance in the Old Testament. The behavior was tolerated, but never encouraged. Well, the 12 tribes of Israel are the product of Jacob, Israel, his two wives, sisters, and their two maids, so his two concubines. And I've never seen a word of reproach or any consequence from the Almighty in respect of his servant in that matter at all. He's raising up seed to the Lord, and if a man have a barren wife and can raise up seed to the Lord with a concubine, then surely this is the preferable course of action. Raising up seed to the Lord is holy, and the Lord loveth a full quiver. Now we have small families because of the economic fetters that we are bound by in this wicked kingdom. But it won't always be so. I don't know how many wives a man can have. We are warned about multiplying wives. Well, not we, in the sense of me too. I mean, I'm hardly in the current day and age, multiplying wives. We need to subdivide them. They've become really part of the debit sheet. They're hardly an asset any longer at all. And they can be very dangerous and destructive to a man. And I think that I realize that this is stressed also in Proverbs, because there are 3 separate verses of Proverbs warning against a contentious wife. And when something is written 3 times in the Bible, you need to sit up and pay attention in particular, because it's emphasis. Women have really brought men down to their knees and to the very grave over the past many generations because of our weakness and because of the indoctrination that has been drilled into us by the church. That wicked Bishop Cranmer, I think his name was. I'm misremembering it. Whoever it was, anyway, who was responsible for producing the Book of Common Prayer, in which the marriage vow is the responsibility of the husband also to pronounce that he will withhold himself from all others. He takes his wife and will, I think, with perhaps not withholding, but that's the essence, that he will be monogamous towards his wife. That's not a biblical requirement. That was a wicked thing to introduce into the marriage vows, which aren't actually even written in the Bible as far as I can recall. It's a civil contract, I think. You know, you marry, you go to the bride's father. Of course, it has to be agreed by the families, and then it's celebrated and witnessed. That's how it works. But they had to produce this Book of Common Prayer, and it's the first real messing with the King James Bible, I would argue. Although it may have been actually published before the Bible, I'm not sure of the date. But it certainly interferes with Scripture, and it was deliberate. You can't be interfering with Scripture. The Bible is our guide in all things. The Book of Common Prayer needs to be placed in the same pile as the New International Version. An interesting relic, but not a basis for your philosophy, or certainly not unaided for those people who do prefer to read anything other than the AV. We have to always remember there is a gold standard, and it establishes truth. Without it, we're lost, really. So, I sometimes think that maybe Prince Harry is finding himself very hard pressed by his wife, who seems to have taken on a kind of a Jezebel spirit. It's not unusual, really, for an actress to have something of the Jezebel spirit, because these women have this skill at attracting wandering souls. And I'm afraid that her husband may have been one of those unfortunate wandering souls who found himself then, who is finding himself, I would say, at the center of a storm, as many men have over the years, when we follow sirens. I feel compassion for him. I was chatting to a gentleman at the pub. We were outside having a smoke, and he was telling me for some reason that he was a divorced man, but unfortunately he lived with his partner, and then he said that he said, "I think I hate her." And I couldn't understand whether he was talking about the wife that he'd divorced or the partner that he was living with. And he put me straight, and he said, no, it's the woman that I'm living with. And she just said, she's just horrible. Yeah, I can't stand it. And he felt that he was over a barrel because they were in difficult financial conditions to be able to, to get his own house. Maybe they were interdependent. I didn't want to delve too deeply, but it was one of those difficult and painful situations that men do seem to end up in from time to time, quite commonly, actually. And I was reminded of those warnings in Proverbs. It's better to live in the corner of a rooftop than with a brawling woman in a wide house. It is. You need to get out and get to a place of tranquility. It doesn't matter. It can be as humble as you want. I don't know whether under a bridge would do. but it can be extremely detrimental to a man's self-esteem, really, to have to support a brawling woman at length, somebody who thinks that they're in control and wish to exert control over his life, which for a man is absolute anathema. We hate anybody who has his stones intact. You don't want to be controlled. You've got a bit of wild in you. You're a man. That's how it is. They want to control us, the feminists do. I know this because my wife is a radical feminist and anti-patriarchal warrior. And she's explained to me that their plan is to introduce social conditioning, effectively, of various types, and coercion, presumably, fines, and even perhaps imprisonment for behaviors that don't match up with the new man that they wish to create. I listened to her explaining this. It was some years ago now, and I didn't really say anything because I could hardly believe what I was hearing. Spoken with such, such a casual manner that this is what needs to be done. And of course, it's just pure evil that you would form a plan of this nature. I'm thankful that the Lord will not allow it to proceed, of course. But it hardly bears thinking about the level that we've sunk to. And I'm sure women are beginning, perhaps, to perceive it. I think, there are some women, I'm sure, who've kind of got it. But really, I think many women need to really hang their heads in shame when they understand how uplifted they've allowed themselves to become in the face of the Father, whom they reject. God bless today.